This is the control panel area. It's usually at the top left, accessible from most pages. You can get onto this. Let's see what we have here. We have the monitor screen, which is, you know, showing activity for all of the 16 pads. So you've got the top rows, the top 8 pads, and the bottom rows for the bottom 8, well, the 9 to 16. So number 16 is usually a hi-hat, and you won't see a readout here because the hi-hat is different to everything else. So don't freak out if you don't see any activity in this area. I think we're having a bit of a rainstorm. Okay, we go monitor, and we monitor the amount of dynamics we're achieving on here. And we can go to the sensitivity and edit and mess around with these values here. We click on it and spin the tracker ball to the right to increase, or to the left to decrease. Okay, and then you go back to the monitor screen, hit the pad again and see how it's behaving, you know. There's also a thing on this screen in this area called auto trigger. Auto trigger plays back some of the sounds, and you can set the tempo. It's like a sort of miniature SDX. You can set the tempo. You can set the position of the strike on the pad. So let's go to pad 10, which is the one I've been using. Switch off that one. And we will go bit long-winded this. Okay, put in the next value. And then when you've sort of filled this up with events, you can start it. Yeah, and it would carry on playing other sounds. So you can do that, and quit that. I mean, you could go out to you can use this while you're programming a sound, basically. Let's go back to monitor. Now, if I decided I really like that pattern, not that I do, but you know, I could call that bar 1. Bar 0, 1. And then I can go back into imagine I really like that. Go back in, save, and it's already remembered bar 1 because that was the last thing I'd entered. So put bar 2, getting really creative with the names here. Now, if I load bar 1, load bar 2, okay. Anyway, that's just a basic idea. Okay, and we can stop that. Hooray! Now the rest of these MIDI. This displays MIDI as it arrives. MIDI watch. It displays any MIDI activity as it arrives. And there's nothing. That's just a standard trigger, so there's no MIDI coming in there. But if you're playing this with a keyboard, or you wanted to see what was coming in from an octapad or anything, you could use that. There's also a globals. For MIDI globals, you can turn local off, which would mean you have to go out through MIDI out and then back in. So local is on. That means you have got a direct connection to the sound element. Okay, so master tune. Obviously, you know, if you're using it as a keyboard, you may want to tune it in. Notes off is a sort of emergency thing where if everything's going a bit crazy, you hit that and it switches everything off, switches all the notes, stops, silences it basically. Key modes is another one. So dynamic or velocity from the keypad. So each drum has a keypad on the front of the SDX, and hitting that will give you a trigger. It says here on the outer, so it's triggering the outside of the pad if it was a virtual pad. Go up to the next one. We've got dynamic velocity, keypad velocity, pad 1 to 16, or selector, keys, all drums, dynamic maximum. So that is full dynamic basically for keypad mode 2. That's going to give you a maximum dynamic whether you like it or not. Number 3 is a selector pad, similar to the STS7 selector pad, and you touch one of the keys on the front and select a different kit. I prefer to do it by MIDI, but it's there as an option. That's one pad, so you select the current pad that you're on, and this will play that pad at whichever velocity you play it at. So you've still got freedom to hit the pad, the keypads, and they're working as a virtual drum pad. So you're going from 0 on the outside on number 1 right across to a positional value of about 125, 126 in the middle of what would normally be a hexagonal pad. So yes, you're moving, it's like as you step across, you're moving across the width of the pad. So if you've not got any zone intelligent pads with you, that's an alternative option. And this one, I'm just trying to work this one out. This is a sort of narrower range of position. So the position is going from 60 to 75. It's sort of mid positions on the pad. if you were playing a ZI pad. And that's that. Again, I think whichever drum you happen to be in, and you come out of that drum into this mode selection, then you'll get that applied to that drum while you're editing. I'll go back to that, which is my normal one, mode 1. That covers the keypad. Memory is obviously a way of seeing what's available. I tend to clear memory, clear the whole memory before I try and load things in, if I'm working afresh, rather than deleting individual instruments. Discs, you've got options to save the instrument, save it as, which means you can rename it, load instruments, delete them from disk, etc. And disk info, which is very useful. Disk info allows you to check where you are, because there may be several disks that you're working with data from. So always go to disk info, check where you are before you save anything. Again, that's set all set offsets off. That's within that instrument. They're the special features within that instrument. If we quit the instrument, lose the changes, and you've got different special options here. You can assign all the voices 1-to-1 to check all the voices are working. Obviously make sure the mixer settings are up to full as well, and it's always useful if you want to check the voices are all working, stick the same drum in everything. So you just if you've got a very clear, obvious sound, copy that over to every drum. This is just for maintenance or checking that all the voices are working. So you'd copy that bongo into every one, or some clear tone that you're used to, and then go to the mixer and initialize. Whoops, I've slipped. Initialize the mixer just at the top, otherwise you're never going to hear that instrument because it's turned down. So initialize it, and everything's set to the same level and pitch and length, so there's no sort of question then. And then you can sort of listen to all of the instruments, and do that with all of them, 16 of them. And as you can see, each instrument has got that's voice 16 assigned to instrument 16, voice 12 is assigned to instrument 12, and so on. And you'd have to obviously put an instrument in there, right click or button B, paste it in. And for the sake of testing, I always make that into a tom. Same with the hi-hat, make the hi-hat into a tom, which that should default to be a hi-hat there. Yeah, but for the sake of testing, make that into a tom. The reason being, cymbal pads behave slightly different to the normal drum pads, and so does the hi-hat. If that's a hi-hat, you won't get a readout on the monitor screen. If we go back to the control panel, monitor, go to monitor. This is something that I didn't learn about. If you click on there, just click in a slot, you can actually hear something I missed for years. I didn't realise you could do that. And so on. But if this was set as a hi-hat, you wouldn't get that readout. I'm pretty sure you won't Let's just try it. Now let's go up to that control panel. Yeah, no readout. See, these are giving a display, but the hi-hat, for some reason, it's not a fault on the machine, it's just the way it is with the software. So if I change that back into a tom, and again, if you were playing this with the pads, you get the same same thing. So if you're setting up the dynamics of the hi-hat pad, always turn it into a tom, just to get the readout from the actual pad, just as I'm getting that readout here, and then going into the sensitivity page to adjust that. That's on 10 obviously, but if I was setting up the hi-hat dynamics, I would turn it into a tom, mess with it here, you know, sort of get the level that you wanted of sensitivity, and then turn it back into a hi-hat. This piece up here, this response curve, only applies to the keypad. It's got nothing to do with the drum pads as such. And that threshold there, if you get the pad next door accidentally triggering, just put the threshold up a bit, and that will cure that. Okay. I'm going to leave that right there for now, and hopefully that will help someone.